Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks. They're just some of the leaders of the civil rights movement. They marched, protested, and in Rosa's case, sat for equal rights during the 1960s. Many people who fought for equality during this time were arrested and some even killed for the cause. But before the civil rights movement began, 12 Oklahoma City firefighters were setting up the foundation for the protests to come just years later. The 1950s was commonly seen as the golden age of America, but that wasn't necessarily true for everyone.
My knowledge of history of Oklahoma and, this general area of the country, things probably hadn't progressed as much in terms of racial equality as maybe some other, the Northeast and other areas of the country at that point.
Equality wasn't at the forefront of social issues for most Americans in the 1950s. Schools, bathrooms, theaters, all plagued with segregation. However, the OKC Fire Department was one of the first to fight against segregation. In 1951, the Oklahoma Fire Department needed money to fund operations. A vote for this money was made, but was subsequently shut down by the public.
So they were going before the voters to pass a bond issue for various infrastructure projects. My understanding of it is it wasn't entirely popular with the citizens, and they knew it. So the city was going out soliciting various citizens groups to get their support for this bond issue so that it would pass. Well, they went to the Urban League, and the Urban League heard them out and basically based their support on the city's agreement to integrate the police and fire departments.
The Urban League, which was a support group for minorities in Oklahoma City, and the fire department each made their own list of 12 potential applicants to be hired onto the fire department. What's interesting is when they met back up, both the fire department and the Urban League chose the same 12 applicants independent of each other.
That is not a role or position that you expected to see an African American in that time frame. Again, the city was very sharply segregated. There were, the white areas of town, and there was the black areas of town.
A lot of people forget that there are so many all-black towns in Oklahoma that didn't have fire departments, so they were able to go to the small towns and do training for the volunteer firefighters. So they had a lot of support, in spite of some of the things that happened.
Well, I guess I could tell you a story. Like, I remember if I went into the restroom, use the restroom, somebody come in and dump a bucket of water on you while you're using the restroom. Then you had to come back out there and change clothes and get into another uniform. If I go up the hose tower, we had a hose tower at Fire Station 15 at that time. Some of them would get on, turn the brush pump on, shoot water up there, up behind you, going up the hose tower to hang the fire hose, and just other different little games.
If you're talking about being a minority and doing that job, you have a different mindset. It's a fraternity, but then it's also a segregation inside of a fraternity. So you have a fraternity inside of a fraternity, and it's a separate group. You do learn to get along, you do learn to work together, and you do learn cooperation, but you also know about segregation inside the same group.
Think about it, if you was on the job as serious as the fire department is, would you think you'd be playing a game? You're supposed to be a professional person, and would you want them playing games with you? Would you think that was a game? No, it wasn't a game.
The people that were training them thought they could break them. And so they put them through, all the most rigorous things that they could, thinking that, okay, we're going to break some of these men and they're not going to want to stay, with it. But all 12 who started finished and did really well.
I think probably they were very cognizant of the fact that they maybe had to prove themselves much more than the white firefighters did then. So to do that, they worked harder, they trained harder to not only gain the acceptance the other firefighters on the department, but to prove that they were worthy of the positions that they were given.